So we will just have a conversation.
Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So it's also not so formal.
Right. Probably will be more intriguing for the audience.
Yeah. Have a conversation.
Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Oh, oh, we're lagging. Is that a rewind?
Right. Probably will be more intriguing for the audience.
Yeah. Have a conversation.
Okay.
I think that's just Deep's baby. Cute.
O labing makagagahom nga amay namon sa langit, mahinuklugon nga laon nga tagtugas ang langit, hangin, kalayo, tubig kag duta. Tanda ining imong timawa, kabay ining pag-ampo, magadulot sa amon sang kabuhi nga himaya. Salamat sa mga bugay nga imo ginpaambit sa amon. Salamat sa kabuhi nga ginadulot mo sa amon nga himpit. Salamat sa maayo nga panahon kag ilabi na gid sang imo katutom sa amon. Bendisyon ni ang imo katawhan. Bendisyon ni ang ila mga palangabuhian. Bendisyon ni ang mga panggas sa amon mga talamnan. Bendisyon ni ang ilang nga paglugayawan sa iban nga kapungsuran. Kabay makalabot sila nga walay sablag sa ila pagapadulungan. Kag ilabi na gid, bendisyon ni ining isla sang Negros nga amon natawhan. Kinahalad namon ang ining pag-ampo para sa imo kadayawan.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second session for our virtual conference for the Visayas Islands Visual Arts Exhibition and Conference. Viva XCon is a Visayas-wide biennial which started in Bacolod City in the Visayan region of the Philippines in 1990, whose hosting has since then toured the Visayan Islands every 2 years without fail. To continue to include the islands of Cebu, Negros, Panay, Samar, Leyte, Bohol, Guimaras, Siquijor, and Boracay. Viva XCon is a local initiative towards the promotion and strengthening of cooperation among visual art groups in the region. It has become an effective artist-centered blueprint with which other like initiatives have been patterned after. Given the reality of the 2020 pandemic, the limitation is imposed by necessary precautionary measures and the impact of such to the mindset of artists. Viva XCon 2020-2021 has recalibrated the festival design to engage creative spirits in a virtual dynamics that is interactive, online, and will bring together the creative community so as to rise to the challenge of the times. Our objectives is to empower local art practices to be relevant to the challenges of the changing times, to explore opportunities for collaboration and forging of resources among sectors of the community, to respond to art-related issues proactively, and to design a preferred future for the artist community. Viva XCon started last November 2020 and has started with the virtual conference one, which is which has the theme the Sun in our local dialect or language, or refers to what now. It is in keeping with future studies, which postulates possible, probable, and preferable futures and the worldviews and myths that underlie them. What Now seeks to understand the context and circumstance of the art community in the relation to the sectors of the community it coexists with, what is likely to continue, and what could plausibly change. Virtual Conference 2 started last December, and as part of the exhibition and conference, we have continued to have different talks and webinars since December 2020. And today, we have our second webinar for focusing on the art market post-COVID. And to introduce our moderator for today, the art market post-COVID-19, our moderator is Ms. Dawn Atienza. Dawn Atienza is the founder and director of Tinao Art Management, an art projects and artist management group based in the Philippines. She has been a gallerist for Tinao Art Gallery, which has exhibited, collaborated, and participated in the local and international art ecosystem for 12 years. Previous to Tinao, Dawn was in advertising handling activation for the various accounts of McCann Erickson Philippines and A. Sachi and Sachi. Dawn received her Bachelor of Arts in Communication major in journalism from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Please welcome Ms. Dawn Atienza.
Thank you, Gidmani. Good morning, everyone. Maayong aga sa inyo tanan. I am Dawn Atienza of Tinao Art Management, and the title of this talk is The Art Market Post-COVID-19. Like all of you, I have been seeing and experiencing how COVID-19 has turned the world on its head. The news has not been encouraging, especially here in the Philippines, and the question in the air is, when will this end? Hasta saan o pa ini? In the art sector, many exhibitions have been postponed, rescheduled, or just shown online. This has forced us all to look for alternative ways to present artworks to viewers. Galleries and museums have had to depend more and more on social media platforms as physical visits are regulated. As Manny said, even Viva XCon has had to adjust. Whereas before, the conference would run for 5 days straight from morning to night, physically, now Viva has been running for 8 months. Now, the theme of Viva XCon, as Manny said, is Dasun, which in conversation usually means what's next. Depending on how it is said, however, it can also mean what now. For the art market, what is next? And what are the galleries, not just in the Philippines, but all over the world, doing now? Ano ang Dasun? To give some sense of how the art market in Asia is coping with the challenges of COVID-19, we have with us two gallerists from Singapore and Taipei. They both have worked with and featured Filipino artists. We will ask them how they address the challenges of the pandemic and what their outlook is for the region. Let us get to know Jasdeep Sandhu of Gaji Gallery and Queena Chu of Mindset Art Center. Jasdeep Sandhu founded Gaji Gallery in 1996 and the Jogja Art Lab in 2012, based on his dedication in promoting artists from the region and highlighting their international relevance. Over the years, the gallery has reinvigorated academic contributions to the category of Indonesian art and history, with landmark shows such as Lakanat Ground Zero, Intersections Latin and American Southeast Asian Contemporary Art, and Semsar Siahan Points of View, as well as supporting the production of some of the most extensive printed publications on seminal Indonesian artists and collectives. Furthermore, Gajah Gallery has collaborated with several national institutions, holding Sri Hadi Suwardarsono's joint show with Chua Ekkai at the Singapore Art Museum in 2005, and exhibitions on Unizar and the Jendela Art Group on the National University of Singapore, or the NUS, in 2007 and 2009. Jasdeep has also donated several artworks to these institutions, and as recognition of these generous contributions, Jasdeep was awarded the Patron of Heritage Awards in 2008 by the National Heritage Board of Singapore. Very much a veteran, Jasdeep was also co-chair of the inaugural Asia Society Art Gala in Hong Kong, a prestigious charity event honoring three art practitioners for their significant contributions to the field of Asian contemporary art. Good morning, Jasdeep.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me. Very nice to be on this platform and to meet so many new.
Yes, happy 25th anniversary, by the way.
Thank you very much. We are quite busy. It's been a long time in the making, but yes, we are quite happy with where we are at the moment.
Okay, so let us go to your slides, Jasdeep.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
This is my first space that I set up my gallery. 97, 96. We did our first show. So it's a small little
Singapore,
shop.
Right?
Yes, this is in Singapore. This is a small little shop house, very central, and the rent was cheap enough. The building was centrally located, so it was a good start for us, and it was a good platform. I started with very little knowledge of what I was going to face and what were the going to be the difficulties that I was going to face. But I started with a very low budget, which is good in a way, because then I had to learn along the way without suffering painful financial defeats.
Yes. Was this straight from law school, Jasdeep?
Yes, straight from law school. I interned at a gallery and selling Western art, and within a few weeks, I had decided that I'm going to spend my life focusing on Southeast Asian art.
Yes, when you interned in the gallery, that was in England or here in Singapore?
In Singapore.
In Singapore.
In Singapore, and it was a very good learning experience. You sort of I developed a love for the arts, Southeast Asian art in particular, and one of the important moments was actually I started reading. You had time back then to read, and I read a little bit of an article in Art Asia Pacific. It was a survey on Indonesian art, actually, and that completely captured my soul. And I've never forgotten that lesson. And reading, you have a lot of novices that in the art world that say, I look at art with my eyes and with my heart, but you should also try and read sometimes. It'll help you. So we've spent a lot of effort actually trying to cultivate and get writers, art historians on board to help us. It's very important. It's Southeast Asian art is relatively hardly researched, if I may say so, compared to the Western art world. And when we juxtapose ourselves with the Western art world, we realize that actually we're very short on research. So there's a lot. This is actually one of the exciting things about Southeast Asian art. There's a lot of discovery that has to happen, a lot of enlightenment, and that's one of the focuses of the gallery at the moment.
Which is why you also publish a lot of art boxes as
We
well.
try to, not a lot, not enough,
Not
not
enough.
enough. Not enough. I will be the first to say it's definitely not. We need a lot more research, a lot more. And this is not only with regards to Singapore, Indonesia, but I would assume also countries like the Philippines.
Oh, yes.
Patrick Flores came up with a recent book on in modern Filipina. That's fantastic, and we need to ingrain this culture of reading and research into our art practice.
Yes. Make other people fall in love with art just the same as when you did reading books.
Yes, yes. Hopefully,
Hopefully. Okay. Next slide, please.
this was my first gallery space that we set up. It was a very small space, but we had to start from somewhere. And for the people in the islands, you'd see that there's a central panel there, and that was actually it's actually a stretcher bar for a painting, which we had no money back then, so we used coconut rope to go all around the stretcher bar to create a panel. So out of nothing, otherwise a contractor would have charged me a few $1,000s. So that's how we started, from scratch. And yeah, it was a good adventure. It's a very beautiful, cozy space. But of course, as time moved on, we had to progress and move into something bigger and a lot more accommodating to the large canvases that we were hoping to handle.
It is so much fun doing a startup,
Yeah,
Jasdeep, right?
so much headache.
So much headache, I understand. Okay.
Yeah, but the
Next
good
to
thing
that.
was that I
Yeah.
never knew what problems I was going to face. So I was a bit ignorant, and ignorance was actually bliss.
It gave you courage.
Yes, it gave me courage. I thought I
Okay.
knew everything.
Must be the lawyer in you.
Yes, yes, yes. And when you're young, you do everything without thinking.
Yes, yes. That's the power of youth, I think.
Yes.
Okay, what's the next slide, please?
This is, of course, uh, this is Vasan Sitiket. He is a very strong social political artist out of Thailand, and I was very pleased to be able to to host his work, and so that's some of his works. You can see in the background about the farmers in Thailand and how they suffer. I mean, the problem still exists today. But yes, I did jump onto the social political bandwagon very early on. And then
Mm.
I realized that, that's not the only area of art that needs attention. There's a lot of other things, history, artists' personal development, etc., which I think is as important as social political art.
The artists you worked with in the 1990s, Jasdeep, you had a long-term relationship with them, correct?
We developed a long-term relationship with some of them. Some, we couldn't for various
Yes.
reasons, but I'm in touch with most of them, and some are still with the gallery. We like to keep this emphasis, and this is a very it's probably for the artists that are involved. And I must say first that the Philippines actually has a very strong culture of artists being loyal to their galleries, and I
Mhm.
hope they maintain this. It's on the right path. In some countries like Indonesia, the artists are all generally very nice people, so they get invited by one gallery and another and another and another. And after about 2 years, they're burnt out. No
Ah,
one's responsible for them. No one takes care of them. No one's interested in their development. They just do a solo show and they move. The solo show and they move, or a group show. Some big collector's birthday. Some collector's son is getting married, and one, and there's no sense of ownership with the artist, and it can be very distracting as well. So my advice to artists is, take your invitations seriously. um,
yes.
you can't be pandering to collectors' demands, galleries' demands. Take your invitations. Don't let anyone infiltrate that artistic space of yours of what you want to do. Try and guard that very carefully.
Yes, don't get too distracted on the
It's very
side.
it's
Happen.
very easy to get distracted. It's
Yes.
very, very easy to get distracted.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think what you're doing, because you're working for long term with them long term, it's more of a development of encouraging them to have a strong body of work.
I want to tell you a story. I mean, now that we have many artists involved in the talk, about distraction. There was a very important American artist by the name of John Baldessari.
Mm.
And he recounted an experience of when he was very young. He was in school, I think, and he had an invitation from a gallery. And the gallery promised him a solo show in 6 months. After 2 months, he wrote a letter to them. They didn't reply. Another month later, he wrote another letter. They didn't reply. And just before the solo show, he visited the gallery. And when he visited the gallery, it was locked. It had gone bankrupt. This is in
Oh,
the
and they
50s,
did
of
not
course.
tell him.
Well, but that's not the point. The point was he left the space and he sat down in a park and he thought and thought and he said, you know what? Since the day I got this invitation, my art became second place. It was about where am I going to hang this? What am I going to do? How am I going to look at the opening, the press release, the this, the that? And he had forgotten about the art. It's a very sneaky thing how artists get distracted, and they should always be conscious of of what's happening. How are they going to get distracted? And it happens in very subtle ways. So I hope that this is a story that they can remember when they get invitations. It's they should just stay focused on their work, and try and guard it very, very preciously, if that's such a word. So yes, sorry for my digression. I went off tangent.
No, that's very interesting, because yes, and that's where the gallery comes in, because the gallery can do all the other stuff related to art, and then
Yes,
the artist can, give more focus to his work.
yes.
Yes. And now in this picture, Jazz Deep, you are at Angkor Wat.
This is actually a pretty important picture. What had happened was the art boom had started in North Asia, and a lot of the collectors from the region were going to North Asia and spending a lot of money, a lot of their funds into North Asian art, Japanese, Chinese,
Japanese.
Korean.
Yes.
But when they came back home, they didn't give their local artists the same recognition. And at that time, many collectors, auction houses had asked me, why aren't you dealing with this art? Why aren't you dealing with North Asian art? And I said, well, I started with all these guys. They're my friends, and I can't just abandon them and go to another market. And
You are
so
the guy with the red cap, correct?
I'm the guy with the maroon trousers. So so what happened was, when I made a tidy sum of money from an exhibition, I said, let's go to Angkor Wat. So all these guys, some of them about to be famous, some not famous, some young artists, we went for a big trip, a fun trip. It's an amazing trip that we had. The hours we managed to squeeze in and the fun that we had. But when the boom came to Southeast Asian art 2 years later, most of these guys stayed loyal to me because I'd invested the time, the energy, the emotions in their work, and it paid off. I was quite lucky for it to pay off. But what I want to say to the artist is, you make your price, you make your art valuable. And one of the things I told to these young artists when they were complaining to me about why they were not getting the same recognition as the North Asian artists, I told them, you sell like vegetables, you will get the price of vegetables. You've always got to protect your market, and your dealer can help you. If your dealer is good, then if your gallerist is good, he will help you to move your your artwork forward.
And place it in the right collections.
Right collections in the right manner also.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so another picture, please.
This is this was our first show at the National University Museum. This was for Uniza, who's a very accomplished Indonesian artist. Um, of course, the art boom happened in 2007, 8, 9. It started happening back then, and the prices escalated. And as a gallerist, I got very worried because the prices were going up so much. I mean, what was the validation? I don't like this word so much, but what was the validation? And we decided to engage curators and for them to put shows together that brought out a deeper meaning outside of the gallery space and outside of the auction house space, to actually show collectors what these artists were doing. And we had, I would say, limited success because it's hard to find a good curator. But for this show, we did very well. It was a landmark show for the artists. The writings in the catalog were very good, and it put together, it put out this artist in his actual context. And till today, it helps him in his career. So that was something that we did as a gallery to try and actually value add, if I may use this word, into the artist's practice.
Okay. When you say that you were becoming worried about the prices going up, especially I think when the works are already in auction and people are, just vying to get a
Yes.
piece. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So this isn't the new space already, right?
This is still the old space.
Mm.
This is sorry, that was the first space, and then we moved off to a better space, and then we moved off to a much better space right now, which is the current space that we're in.
Okay.
This is Ashley Bickerton's solo show that we did for him. He's a legendary American artist, noted in the history books, very important in the 1980s, and then he moved to Indonesia. And we are very, very lucky to be working with someone like him. His experience that he has from that world, which is more advanced than ours, but we are catching up very fast, gives us an insight into how things are done and something to juxtapose our present positions, etc., etc. But still, this is the new space, and this show actually is by Samsa Siahan.
Yes.
This is actually a contemporary of Santiago Bose from the
Yes.
Philippines. Hugely socio-political artist, passed away in 2004. And I'm very proud as a gallery to be able to put together such shows, because the artist was almost non-existent in the art world up till about 2017 when we did the show for him. But we managed to very slowly research his whole life's work, acquire work, borrow work, and most importantly, get very important art historians like T.K. Sabapati, Aminuddin Siriga on board. And from this show, we sold quite a few works to very important collectors, and we also placed some in some museums as well. But the research that we've done, prior to this, the artist had very little research done on him or had a decent catalog. But this catalog now is very much part of his existence in the art world.
Were you working with the family?
We worked with the family, with collectors, we were also very lucky because it's not easy to put shows like this together. The research is, a lot. It takes a lot of time, and you have to pay for it. You have to pay your staff to get the research done.
And we've worked with Santi before, and one of the challenges was the documentation of past works and where
Yes.
they are now. So you
Yes.
also have had to do that.
Yes, a little bit of investigative work.
Yes.
So this show that you see right now on the screen is actually a show of female artists from around the region, including Geraldine, Suzanne Victor, of course, from Singapore. It was Also a very well researched show. Sorry, this is Samsasyahan. The next
Yes.
slide is actually the next slide is Suzanne. This is Suzanne Victor, a very important Singapore artist who's living in Sydney at the moment. She's also an artist that left Singapore, but we like to work with this artist. We don't believe in the word fresh so much. We believe in an artist's depth of what they're doing. We try and create a platform. We believe an artist's career is 50 years, not 5 months or 2 years. So we're very happy. She's in her mid-50s right now, and we like to work with artists like this because there's so much of depth in them. Anyway, so this is the show for the female artists. The panels, the blue panels you see there are Geraldine Javier's, but the big installation is Suzanne Victor's. It was inspired by the plight of the comfort women in Southeast Asia during the Japanese occupation. So you have that red sort of like hair that she created, which is the center. That has a dialogue with the Japanese flag, actually, the rising sun, because the Japanese are very much. And this what I like about this work, one of the things that I like about this work is it was actually shown in Japan without the Japanese knowing the implications of the artwork,
What it was about.
What it was about. And she made, she all these it was fantastic. It's just the wit of hers is brilliant, to put something out there in Japan and without them knowing it's something about what they'd done during World War II.
So that was the version for the gallery. She made that version for the gallery.
That was actually done in Tokyo. That was done for a show in Tokyo. She kept about most of the works, and then we have an art lab in Yogyakarta, which we actually used to finish off the other 25% of the parts from that work, which was done, I think, 20 years ago. More than 20 years ago. So it was a fantastic work. It is a fantastic work of hers.
In the second showing, there were no censorship issues or something?
No censorship, actually. In Singapore, I think the idea of censorship is probably overblown. I've got a few things to say about. As long as it's not about religion and politics, most likely no one's going to trouble you on it. Most likely, issues of homosexuality, etc., sexuality, it's more or less, everyone closes one eye or two eyes sometimes. It's only when someone from the public starts to grumble, then very reluctantly, I think the government has to do something about it.
Yes, I'm asking because if it's about comfort women, and I just remember the situation here wherein we had a sculpture of a comfort woman, which was just up. It was a public art, and
Yes,
it was just up for around 5 months and had to be it was taken down afterwards.
that's a pity.
Yes,
That's a pity. My recommendation to artists is my advice to artists is, if you want to beat the censors, use your art, use your wit, so that sometimes they don't even realize what the work is about, and it passes the censors. But still, I think that makes it a lot more exciting and interesting. So yes, so this is actually work by Uniza. The sculptures are actually made in the Jogja Art Lab. We set up a foundry in 2012. Just after the art boom, we realized we had made a bit more extra money, so we set up a foundry in Jogja, dealing primarily in bronze, to help artists make very high quality sculptures. We have actually got a lost wax casting process going on right now, which is very sophisticated. Our materials are imported from overseas, mainly because we want to maintain the purity of the production. And we've invited experts to come in and to help us produce this work. So apart from bronze, we also do help artists fabricate the artwork, because some of these things need a lot of effort to put together. So these are works that you see, some paper works, which are also the papers made in the art lab, some bronze works. This is Uniza's rooster.
Mhm.
And we're very proud to say that Uniza is now going to be at the Frieze Sculpture Show in October. So it's a huge landmark for us. As a gallerist, we've been able to put our artists out there, Frieze Sculpture Show in September. We also have been able to sell a work to some important collectors like Damien Hirst, who have acquired sculptures from us as well. This is, of course, Geraldine Javier. We're very happy when we can work with with Filipino artists. And this Filipina, Geraldine, of course, you all know, is famous. An amazing work made from the foreground. You see this little pool-like installation, and that's basically made from shredded plastic bottle caps. Again, she engaged the community around her. They managed to put this together. It's again about the environmental destruction that's happening all over the world. Fantastic. We're very happy when we get important installations like this into Singapore.
How did you meet Geraldine?
After a lot of badgering.
You saw her in biennales, maybe in art fairs?
Sorry?
You saw her works in biennales and art fairs.
We've heard of her for about 10 years plus at least. She's renowned for her work, and we always find the right time. This can't be put together very quickly.
Yes.
The right time for her to actually say, okay, I'm going to do something. And one of the things is because we worked with curators like Michelle Antoinette from Australia, who are very respected, and they put together good shows and good publications. And I think that's always a plus point, because for an artist like Geraldine to show in a gallery is okay, but to show in a gallery with a good curator, with a good publication, that's always something which will excite them.
Okay. Geraldine, aside from Geraldine, next slide. Oh, is that Geraldine? Okay.
I
Next.
don't think it's Geraldine.
Yes.
But that surely is me. Right.
Are you one of those galleries, Jasdeep? Because it's funny, because there's some galleries around the world wherein when people come in, they just let them alone. Or
We
are you one of those who greet your guests when they come in?
we greet, but we also then leave them alone.
Yes, it's a balance.
Yeah, it's a balance. We don't want them to feel harassed or whatever. We try and make them feel comfortable. This, of course, is Jigger Cruz.
Yes.
I think one of the best abstract expressionist artists you have in the whole of Asia. Perhaps, if you ask me, in the whole world. But he is very good. We love his practice. We try and work with him whenever we can, but still very serious guy. And I think what we need to do in Southeast Asia is to try and give the artists a platform as good as any international gallerist platform for them to work from. And we like Jigger a lot. He's a fantastic guy. His work is good. We invited him to the art lab, and this is some of the sculptures that he did. It's a pity that you can't go close up to these sculptures, but the technique in the art lab is so good that you can see him. You can see his fingerprints on the finished bronze sculpture.
Yes.
And that's him. He's got a fantastic. You can always tell a good artist. He may not come in at 6 o'clock in the morning, but when they start working, the dedication to the work is
Focus.
complete. It's amazing. It's actually a once in a lifetime experience to see artists working. They don't work at 30-minute or 15-minute intervals. They work, 3, 6, 9 hours now non-stop.
I think once they start working, some of them um, are in a trance already.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise around them. They
Mm.
might have their rock music, but you can tell that they're in their own world.
Which is why a lot of artists also have physical difficulty. They have back problems, arm problems because
Yes,
of that focus. Okay,
yes.
so this is your
I think
Instagram.
you're right. You're very right with that one.
Yes.
This is one of the so this is our 25th year, our 25th anniversary. So the old man on the on the left hand side is actually Ongso. He's now showing at the Center Pompidou. We
Mm.
picked his work up in 1996 when on my first trip to Myanmar. He was hardly known, and we're very lucky to get a curator, art historian to research over the past 20 years into his work. And
Mm.
today he's got a solo show at the Center Pompidou. This is one of the things, one of the highlights, one of the things that highlights the point about what I want to say, what I said earlier about Southeast Asian art being hardly researched. Such an important artist, and there's not much information out there. What a gem. Great contribution to the Southeast Asian art practice, but relatively unknown, and now showing at the Center Pompidou.
Wow.
What's
Okay.
this?
Inst-
Okay, so now this is, I think what we're trying to show is actually it's just about our social media.
Mm-mm.
I
You had
think
to use this especially during the pandemic.
yes. So once the pandemic set in, two things that happened to galleries. Firstly, collectors, many things actually happen. Collectors are in a disarray. Art fairs, which are the backbone of art activity anywhere in the world, shut down. Galleries um, um, suffering because they rely so much on art fairs, their programming is upside down. There's how do you replace it? But I want to start with one important point, and which is what we realize very importantly at the start of it. Our artists, and especially our artists' mental health, was going to be affected. How do you reassure them that things are okay? So you get them involved in all the social media programs, the talks, the small little shows, the presentations, the reviews of their work, and all this we managed to put out on social media. I have to say that we have a pretty good team in the gallery, and they swung into action, and they put together a program of social media. So you've got Nicole Soriano from the Philippines, my manager for 15 years, Aisha, Tess Pang from Malaysia. They basically put together a pretty solid program, interviewing collectors, artists, architects, curators, etc., etc. And we created an existence. Whether it led to many, whether it was financially rewarding, I would say perhaps not, but it kept our artists engaged. And that's very important. The mental health of the artists, and to a certain extent, the collectors as well. Because, what do they do? What's going to happen? So you try and create a different platform for them to interact with. And I think we had some good success. We did a very good job, but social media has only a limited reach,
Yes.
unfortunately. But I think we did the best we could have done during that period.
Is Singapore, is it back to normal for you in Singapore?
Singapore's, I think right now we are on, I think they had a lockdown and then they went to 50% in the galleries, as in the staff.
Mm.
And now we are, I think, we are on social distancing,
Yes.
which is, mask on and very little interaction. Like, you can have people come to the gallery,
Mm-hmm.
but they must be in groups of 8 or something, and not more, and no intermingling, etc., etc. So, and they strictly enforce these rules. So yeah, more or less, I think we are slightly ahead of the curve as far as, controlling the pandemic is concerned.
Mm. And what do you think? Do you have an outlook, Jasdeep, on how things will be?
the the outlook right now is actually, we are optimistic. We are still focused on keeping our artists engaged, still focused on I mean, look, just 2 days ago we got the news that Uniza has been selected for the free sculpture fair.
Mm.
I mean, you put that out to his collectors, you put that out to the artists, and everyone's smiling. What pandemic? So you try and create an existence outside of this condition that we live in. The art lab is still, like, I think the art lab is so busy producing artwork at the moment. We've got projects on for Suzanne Victor, Jane Lee, Ashley Bickerton. We are trying to carry on as normal as possible. It'll help us. If the gallery doesn't do it, then who is?
Yes.
So, you have to. And we see a very bright future for Southeast Asia. I see the region coming together. I see Filipinos, collectors, collecting from the region, and vice versa. And it's important. It's very important to develop a larger market.
So, by the time this pandemic stops, or we're in a different place already, we would like to
Yes.
invite you to the Visayas in the Philippines.
Look, for the Visayas, I want to point out something. It's an observation of mine. In
Yes.
Southeast Asia, there are two very unique and fantastic sort of like art events. First is the Jogja Art Week
Mm.
in Jogjakarta. No collectors, just artists, and everyone descends.
Mm.
A very active week, 2 weeks, and it's not on the commercial map. The second thing is the Art Fair Philippines. It's one of the most refreshing art fairs. Very little stress in a car park. Okay, limited in space, but still they made it theirs. They have ownership of this type of an art fair.
It's
It's
a unique
unique,
character. Yeah.
fantastic, amazing, beautiful. Like, and for the Visayas, look at Miami. Before Art Basel Miami, it was nothing.
Mm.
They started it, and it is one of the biggest events in the world. So the Visayas should take inspiration from places like this. Have a good organizer and good handlers. In Jogja, the handlers actually came from art students, you know,
Mm.
because they only artists know how to handle artwork. So they had to get the art school, the students from the art school, to actually help create a platform for art handling. You got a good organizer and you have good art handling, then most of the problems are solved.
If you build it, they will come.
Yes, you have to. What else is there to do? If you don't build it, they're not going to build it for you.
Yes. Okay. Jasdeep, thank you very much. We'll get
Thank
back
you.
to you later. We'll have an open forum when
Right.
we have questions from the audience. Thank you,
Okay.
Jasdeep. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're going to Miss Queena Chu. Queena is based in Taipei, Taiwan, and she currently works as a director of Mindset Art Center, or MSAC. MSAC is one of the leading contemporary galleries with strong programmings in the region, which specializes in artist management and art consulting. It serves as a trustworthy platform for both artists and collectors. Queena joined the gallery in 2011 and became the partner in 2014. She has organized many exhibitions for collaborative artists around the globe. Her expertise is Asian contemporary art and project management. Queena also offers professional advice on art selecting and collecting. Good morning, Queena. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Hello?
Okay, there we go. Yes.
Hi. Hi,
Hi.
good morning,
Good
everyone. Thank you
morning.
for inviting.
Yes. So, Queena, the last time we saw each other was in Art Fair Philippines 2020, just
Exactly, like
before
last
the
year.
pandemic. Yes. and
Yeah,
I
and then it
remember,
just, mhm.
and then the space was still, it was air conditioned, many people going around.
Yeah,
We, but
we
you
were
already knew.
nervous.
We were, you were
Yeah, I already
nervous.
knew.
But it's a good thing you
So
were still
we
able to
were
go.
lucky.
Mm.
Yeah, we were probably the last edition of the art fair for the last year. For after Art Philippines, all art fairs were stopped or paused. So that was the last one, and we were already new before we departure, because before Art Philippines there was a Taipei Dangdai, and in
Yes.
Dangdai we already read on the news that there's a pandemic, but everyone thinks that it's gonna be small, it's gonna be like SARS, it's gonna be ending within the month. Yeah.
Mm. And people were not yet wearing masks in Art Fair Philippines.
No,
No.
no. I remember only us and Isa and Rachel from Silverlands, they're wearing masks.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and we
Everybody
were
else
on
was
mask all the time.
handshaking. Yeah,
Yeah, handshaking and hugging. I still do that, but with masks on.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, let's go to your
right.
slides.
Okay. Well,
So,
it's a little bit about me. Yeah.
yes, you studied in New York,
Yeah, I studied
media
in New York,
studies. Yeah.
media study. And the first year I focused on communication studies, theories. And the second year I moved to the editing, more like in film industry.
Mm.
And I guess with that time when I'm in New York, I developed my interest in art. I went to museums and see a lot of shows, but I couldn't know what will be my career when I'm back in Taipei. And then when I analyze myself, I always found finding a job, instead of a job, I should find a career. And
Yes.
when you say a career, it will be a lifetime job. So I think art probably the most suitable career I should explore. And then I ended up here.
And you've been working for more than a decade in art.
10 years. Actually, like two
Oh,
days ago, it was my first day in my art center.
happy
April.
anniversary. Happy
Thank you.
1 decade. Okay,
Thanks.
next slide, please.
Yeah, it's about the gallery. Actually, we
Okay.
start with our gallery will start as an art consulting agency. And speaking of art consulting means that we serve most the collectors at that time, and we usually only do 2 shows per year. And
Mm-hmm.
after I joined the gallery in 2012, we had a space. So we decided to have more programming and officially become a gallery instead of our consulting agency. And besides the exhibitions at the gallery, we do a lot of art fairs and collaboration with curators, and also we do a lot of like research and publications for artists.
And you've worked with a lot of Filipino artists.
Yes,
Yes.
we went to Philippines for regular studio visits, find artists from 2012.
Mm.
Yes, and
I'd say,
besides the
mm,
Philippines, we work with Japanese artists, Romanian artists, Chinese artists, and also of course like Taiwanese artists, of course, local one.
so these
And
are some of
they
the
are
artists you
artists,
work
yeah,
with.
some of the
Yes.
artists we were.
Okay. Next slide, please.
Oh yeah, this is the first show. I After I first worked for the gallery and I handled the Elon's exhibition. Elon is the Malaysian artist. She's a very good artist, and back then we were in another space. We moved once, and this is the agency office, and we rent out a space with from a like logistic company. We share the office, and this exhibition, Elon came to Taiwan and gave a talk, and so that the audience would like know what exactly the artists are about. And Elon's actually had a major solo exhibition in Sabah this year, and also in Hong Kong. And we're still working with her.
She works a lot with textiles.
Yes, textile and fabrics, and also digital print.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the photos, a photo installation he had. This is like old photos from 50s or 60s in the photo studio. Back then, people have their family photos there, and so this installation is kind of like recollections of people's like the society's ups and downs and a lot of things going on in that age.
Okay.
And this is another like photo from Elon's show. Just give a quick look of that. This is very good work as well. It's from the big. It's called the series is called Abasaya, and it's actually like saying the big peoples they have this kind of decorated flower on their chest, but when you take a close look, you know that the flower is actually dying. It means that the big people is quite corrupt inside. Yeah, there's some
Was this in the gallery?
significations. Yes,
this in
that
the
is in the gallery.
Oh, the wall is not. The wall
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
have
we
edges.
painted. We
Oh.
painted to into orange.
Okay. It's Marina.
And then people like in the Philippines probably know us because Marina Cruz. Yeah, we started working with Marina Cruz since 2012. This is the first exhibitions of her at our old space.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Then next slide.
Next slide. There's some pictures of it. And Marina, I don't need to like introduce her more, I guess. Yeah, most of like her work is beautiful about the families dresses that Satrick discovered 20 years ago in her grandmother's house. And this is the 20 ladies exhibitions with us in 2017. And this is a new space.
That's the new space.
Yeah, this is a new space, also the current space of ours.
Oh.
It's bigger.
This is where you've worked with Patrick in some of the shows.
Yes, you will see later. I actually pick up some of the Filipino artists, things that I thought people would know that we work with some, of course, like artists individually, or we collaborate with the local gallery as well. For example, like Marcia Chensa, we work with Silverlands. And actually, this is the first video show we had.
Do you find that having collaborative exhibitions is easier for the gallery?
Yes, it's easier, of course. Like, for example, we reach out to artists in the beginning, and it's kind of hard to establish the relationship. It took time and always have to go back and forth. And after a while, we think that to work with the legitimate gallery and the gallery have the good programming and portfolio so that we can work together, that's easier for the gallery based in Taipei instead of based in Manila.
Okay. And this slide.
And this is Hannah. I also work with Silverlands. This is the show we invited Patrick to become the curator of the first show features in Filipino artists and Filipino art. So Patrick is an art historian, as you know. He introduced us the Bulaco, one artist from Bulaco City, Jace Aiko,
Jess Aiko
which
is
is,
here.
yeah, he's really good. He's a really good artist. We're glad that we would not know this artist without Patrick.
So it's really good if you were able to work with a local person as well.
Yes,
The
yes.
collaboration. Okay. This is from the same exhibit.
Yeah, and
Oh,
this is the second. Yeah, this is another group show Patrick curated for us. He always can bring us the new artists we should pay attention to.
This is where
Amazing.
Lee and
Yes.
Henriel are here. Yes.
Yeah, Lee and Henriel, yes. And that is Patty Espacchio.
Mm-hmm. So you have quite a number of exhibitions.
Yes, yes. We had usually we'll have 8 exhibitions per year, and half is local, half is foreign artists. And for the foreign artists percentage, the Filipino probably occupy 25%.
Oh, that's
so
a lot.
you will see a lot of it's a lot. I guess the reason is that we found that Filipino painters are very good, like especially paintings. And as a commercial gallery, sometimes the private collector, they still likes to collect paintings rather than other art forms. I guess that's the reason we happen to discover a lot of good artists in the Philippines.
Even during the pandemic, Queena, do you feel that paintings are still the most?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, even during the pandemic, but I guess like in the West, people probably shift their focus to the digital art.
Yeah,
that's why the NFT. That's why the NFT craze are right now.
Which I don't thoroughly understand.
It's actually digital native things you can do with NFT. I guess the technology will solve a lot of problem, but for physical, when it comes to the physical art object, it won't work, at least for now. And this is just give people overview of what we have been doing for the past 10 years. This year is actually our 11th year. So we are going to our next 10 years. And then we encountered the pandemic. So we figured out we can do something more with the community. And also we're doing some museum shows, of course.
In Taiwan, the pandemic, you told me before that the most affected months were around April and May.
March and April.
March and April. How are you now?
Yes. We are normal. We can have concerts. But people you have to wear the mask. Like if you take a trend, if you go to something department store, you have to wear a mask. Well, I guess the Taiwanese people likes to wear a mask. They even on the street, everyone wears a mask.
I think even before the pandemic, some were already wearing masks in public spaces. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So I guess they're trying to. Some people wear the mask probably want to hide their expressions, and some just avoid that. Some allergic, and here the air is probably polluted. Yeah.
Or maybe they don't want to talk to a lot of people.
Yeah, they don't want to talk to people, so they just wear the mask all the time, which is a good way to avoid people. I should learn that.
Okay, so this is still a new space, right?
This is a museum. It's a museum, called Guandu Museum of Fine Arts. It's in the most important art universities in Taipei, and the museum is located inside the university.
Okay.
And we brought others there. And this year, Marina is going to have the first major solo exhibition, museum exhibition there too.
Okay, the next slides will deal with how you
how we deal with yeah, stay connected. We actually made a lot of videos. Each videos focus on one artwork and one artist. So the artist will do the voiceover, and we put that on the social media and also on the Instagrams, on YouTube, on our Facebook. And the goal is that now we are trying to get the people, besides stay connected, our goal is want to make the collectors, to attract collector actually to visit the gallery, because the Taiwanese collectors, they are still more rely on emotional connection. So even the artists, you told them the artists have to wait in line and it's hard to get, they still want to see the works. So Taiwan is quite well managed during the pandemic. So in March and April, I guess those collectors just afraid. They are afraid going out. So they refuse to visit the gallery. So making the videos and stay connect is the way we figure out how to get their attentions. And we managed to get some of the collectors, they are willing to come. And before coming, they are making sure I'll be the only one. I'll be the only one, or I'll be the only two visiting the gallery besides the staff. And we promise that, yes, it's actually by appointment and they are okay to come.
Yes. And this slide shows the Art Basel viewing rooms.
Yes,
How did that perform? How was that?
the first, we joined the first OVR. I guess the first edition's OVR is not quite good. It's not well prepared, and the technology just, it crashed in a minute. Like too many people, the traffic, it cannot handle the traffic. But the second edition is quite good, and we're going to participate the third edition, which is this coming May as well. They do have some of the new thoughts and new curatorial thing about the OVR. They're doing one called Portal. They invite curators to do, and we think that it's probably still the way to stay connect with other, such as the European market through that, as we know that they're still struggling with the pandemic. People, some of the cities still during lockdown.
Yes.
So online would be a space we have to put more efforts on. We have to keep the connection with the physical work, but we still has to pay a lot of efforts on the online things, which is going to be the future. We all have to face that.
I remember just before the pandemic, a few years before that, our schedules in the art scene all over Asia has been very frenetic, very busy of art fairs,
Yes,
exhibitions,
it's
and
overwhelming.
it was overwhelming, which is why this pandemic was really a shock to the system. And I guess now we really have to adjust on how to do things.
Yes, like people saying that we will see some charts that you say how dealers and how galleries cope with the pandemic. Most of the gallery, they would control their cost, and participating art fairs and the traffic footprints has actually cost a lot of money. Yes.
Yes, but this pandemic, because the art fairs had to, renegotiate, because we know the steep prices for joining, right?
Yes, it's quite high.
But for the online, was it more less, a lot less?
It's more, a lot less. For example, the new OVR conducted by Basel, I guess it's 5,000 US dollars.
Oh,
More than that, more and less. Yes.
okay. And we have a chart here.
Yes. And the chart is about the dealer's outlook for sales in 2021. And the report is from also Basel, Hong Kong. It's the respondents are from all participants to our Basel, but I guess we can take a pick and get a little understanding of how dealers in Asia as well. I think most of the dealers have quite optimistic point of view for the 2021 or in the following
Following year.
years. But my point of view is that most of the capitals might stay in Asia in the following years instead of
Instead of
American or
Europe.
Europe.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Next slide.
So we have to put more, like spend more time to preserving the relationship with our current clients, of course. But I don't think like people won't turn to localizations within after the pandemic. People still want to go out and they want to see more new arts. They want to exchange the thoughts, and also want to approach new artists as well. So I guess the collaboration would become a lot more importance between especially like middle and small sizes gallery.
Yes.
So that
So the big size, the big galleries, more or less they can manage to tie this pandemic, but and then the
yes,
small galleries
have
have
team up.
less less overhead. It's the
Yeah.
mid-sized galleries which have to really adjust because then the cost of the rent and all the manpower. So we need to adjust our way of working as well.
Yes.
And then
Right.
this chart is about
This one is
share.
quite
Yes.
the share of how the art dealers put the first like priorities. Like people, like we can see in 2019, actually the first one is art fairs. The people are crazy about art fair. The things that go out and you can meet new clients and there's always a better opportunities. And then suddenly the pandemic strike and you can see the first priority become the relationship with existing collectors. And in
In
the
a
following
way,
years,
yes.
in a way, like people understand that maybe meeting new people from our own experience, clients meeting in the art fairs, I would like to meet new artists instead of like new client in the art fairs. Sometimes we can always explore
Oh.
new artists in art fairs because clients in the art fairs is quite hard to maintain the relationship. They always want to come for blue chip artists. If you have some, or if you have the artists, they cannot regularly approach through their platforms. They will come to you. But after that, sometimes they just vanish. And they just become like a friend meeting once, like a party, like people trying to get the art fair party and meet once a year, which is quite fun. I'm not against that, but yeah, in terms of like a gallery operation, I'd rather spend more time on finding new artists and building relationship.
Rather than the social side.
Yeah, rather than socializing and parties. Yeah, so.
Okay, so in this slide,
This is. Go ahead. Sorry.
this slide you're showing the different markets that you think would be sustaining a brisk art market.
Yes, I chose this 4 city in Asia that I think people or artists they can try to approach to. Of course, like 4,000. Indonesia also important because from our background, we did a lot of research on the collectors. So the collectors in Indonesia and Taiwan, they are open-minded to international artists compared to the Philippines, compared to Chinese. These collectors have been collecting for a while. So basically they value the quality of the artwork instead of nationality.
That's very interesting.
Yes. So we found it quite interesting that when we joined the Art Philippines, the younger generation would accept the artists outside the Philippines, but for like collectors above probably in their 50s, it's hard for them to accept the non-Filipino artists. So usually we're trying to introduce Taiwanese artists. We will making like a package. We will do a group show and have the thematic way as a presentation, so more people will know them.
Okay. So, okay. After this, it's the next slide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be all.
Thank you, Queena. So far,
Thank you.
from both Jasdeep and Queena's talk with us, we've recognized the value of long-term relationships with artists and clients, and that the gallery system has to also be fast in adjusting to whatever social changes there might be. After this, we will accept questions from the viewers. Okay, Jasdeep. Okay, Queena, let's go with you
Yes.
first. There is a question here
Okay.
for both you and Jasdeep.
Mhm.
Aside from, hello, Jasdeep, we're going to open our forum already. Okay, so question for you both, Queena. Aside from utilizing the online space as your primary platform, are there other gallery practices you have come to modify or change during the pandemic? So aside from social media.
Right.
Yes.
We do. We reschedule some of the foreign artists' solo exhibition to this year. We supposedly have to show a lot more artists from the Philippines or from other countries, but because of the travel restrictions, it's hard to get the artists like in present, which we found it difficult to stay connected with the local audience. For example, like a Taiwanese collectors, where they would like to know more and they want to talk more with the artist. So for example, for Boom, we showed Boom in last year, and that is the only schedule which happens on the schedule. And other the rest we moved to this year. Also, we're supposed to show Li Pahe, and then we also move. Yeah, because we found it quite hard. And we do this kind of like online things. It's that people just laugh. They are not so interested. It's not about sales. Actually, we sold out all the Boom's works, but it's kind of like a shame. People don't have really the understandings with the artist. Especially that would be the first time, the first solo exhibition in Taiwan. Supposedly there's a lot of like talk or interactions between the artist and the local community, and all gone. During the pandemic, that is not going to happen. So actually we reschedule a lot and we show some of the local artists instead. And we work with the curators in other fields. For example, our recent exhibition, we work with like a writer. The writer is actually from the architect background, but he also writes and he also collects. That is the methods we think that we can gather more audience into a space and get them to know more about what we are going to do. And that is probably the changes we've been made while coping with the pandemic.
Thank you. How about you, Jasdeep? What other gallery practices did you have to modify or change? Oh, I think you're on mute. Okay.
Sorry.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. No, we've reinvented ourselves. We've tried to use the gallery platform, which was, I think, at one time last year, 2019, completely overwhelmed by art fairs. So we decided to now look into our primary function, our traditional primary function, as a gallery of actually using our space creatively, putting together shows, novel shows, curating played more of an importance as compared to the traditional art fair role. So we got in touch with writers. We put out reviews of shows that we'd done before, created a greater dialogue between the collectors and the artists. So I think this actually has been a bit refreshing. If you look at it in this way, it's been pretty refreshing.
Do you find that there's a return to more the older practice in
Yes,
gallery? Yeah.
yes. In that sense, it's been pretty rewarding, because I think up till 2019 we'd been overwhelmed by art fairs and
Yes.
the stress of art fairs, and it art fairs do take up a lot of the gallery's financial ability. So we have tried. Of course, there's benefits from that as well, but from going to art fairs, because you do meet new collectors, etc. But we've tried to now engage our collectors on a personal level, because we all have more time to really look at, review your collections, review the gallery's programming, etc., etc. So it's been very helpful actually in this manner.
Yes. Okay, there's another question here, Jasdeep. Please share with us an example of how you helped coach or mentor an artist. What improvements did you see in the person's knowledge or skills? Because you've worked a lot you've had long-term relations as well, Jasdeep.
First thing to learn is, don't say anything stupid to an artist. Yeah. That's
Such as.
when you're young, you give them all sorts of funny ideas, and then you leave them to do their artwork. The moment you start disturbing their creative process, it's never going to work.
Let the creative be the creative.
Yes, but there are ways in which a gallerist can spend time with them, create a program. I mean, a very recent example is, at the start of the pandemic, most of them were down and out. They were like, this is the end.
Mm.
But the gallery was functioning as efficiently, or we created a new program for them. And one of the guys said to me in Indonesian, "Kok kamu masih begini ya? You're still doing this?" He was shocked that we're still alive. So you have to lead the way. You have to let them know who's actually collecting your work. What are you doing for them? What is the programming that you have? All these things you need to just keep them encouraged, without, of course, infringing on their space. But yeah, we've done. I've so we. It's really hard work. Once, as a dealer, you need to stay focused on your artists, and then you build up a team that can actually create a
Support.
platform.
Mm.
Most of the galleries, 20 years ago, not now, most of the galleries had gallery boss and gallery girl. That's it. You can't survive like that anymore. You need to have a team. You need to have, your social media expert, Nicole, your gallery manager, Aisha, because this is the structure that the established galleries in the world have. They have a staff of 15, 20 people. They create programs, they create activity, catalogs, they cultivate research. And that's what we are trying to do. We have to do. so many inspirational things that I've done. Getting fantastic news articles in the Financial Times, a whole page for an artist, and things like that. Getting them recognition from the art world. It's fantastic. It's yes. There's a lot
May,
you can do, but I think as a gallery, you need to develop your team to help you because there's only so much one person can do.
and then Queena, the question was, have you helped coach or mentor an artist? What improvements did you see in the person's skills or knowledge?
You mean when I chose a team?
When
I'm sorry, can
when
I?
when
Yes.
you when you when you mentor an artist,
Okay.
have how you helped coach or mentor an artist, what improvements did you see in the person's knowledge or skills? I think
Uh,
maybe some of the artists you represent.
yes.
Mm.
Well, we always been working with gallery, with the artist. Sorry, let me rephrase. We work with artists when we decided to work with the artist. It's going to be a long-term relationship. So we spent a lot of time in the first spirit that we will do a lot of research on the artist's work, and we will have a lot of discussions about, we have to know the person besides the art, besides like his or her art. We have to make sure the artist, for me, the artist should be very disciplined in a way. Like, so when you work with them, you will know that if they have the concept for their art, and when we discuss how the exhibition would go, the gallery would offer some of the experience, like more practical experience to conduct the exhibition, and they can focus on what they're doing, but they have to always open to communicate, which is quite important for me. So I'm learning, actually being the 10 years, I found myself as a person, you can grow a lot of like communication skills, that when you work with the artists, you can always put them at the first like priority. But sometimes I have my struggles, like I have the cost and I have a lot of things to to have to manage. Yeah, I was like,
To
we don't
balance.
really have, yeah, you have to get the balance. And I guess this kind of thing is the skill set, I would say this always needs to improve. And when you talk with the artist, and when you're trying to understand the artist's practice, there's others you have to think about is how to interpret it, to present this to the audience. When you talk with a different group of the collectors, and the Justin also mentions about you have to place the work into the right person. And that is also a work the galleries and in the people working in the galleries should know and should always learn. There's so many things to explore, and the skill will keep growing. If you talk to, I guess it's different to talk to the artists and talk to the collectors. I'm sure, Dong, you also have this kind of experience as well, right? Sometimes you have to switch.
Yes. Actually, what I find interesting in long-term relationships is when you see the development of the artist, there's some at the start, there may be some tentative, tentative, let's say, vision.
Mhm.
And then you'll just be surprised one day. There's like a click point. There's like a click point wherein all of a sudden the artist has fully formed an idea, and that for me
Mhm.
is always exciting to watch. Okay, the next question is, this is a practical question. Jasdi, what sort of consignment agreement do you have with artists? Consignment agreement.
A normal consignment agreement is let me answer this question in a different way. We take the work from the artist, and we try and make sure that at no point is the artist's trust in the gallery misplaced. That's one thing. Till today, I think it's not professional, but it's still the old style of working. I hardly have a piece of paper of works that we have on consignment, but you never ever abuse that trust with the artist.
It's a handshake.
It's a handshake, but once you abuse it, you're gone. You know, you just create a very bad atmosphere for yourself. Uh, it is something to do with your with the previous question. You have to keep your artist completely happy, that they are safe with you, that they are going to be a priority in the gallery's philosophy. We put always the artist at the top of the food chain, and then it's the collector.
There's a saying, there's a saying, Jasdeep, that in the art world, reputation is the best currency, the most important currency.
Yes. I mean, we have to, at some point, we have to get the paperwork done. But, and we do do that as well, quite often. But I'd say, more often, we have to do it more often.
Yes. Queena?
Yes.
What sort of consignment agreement do you have?
We always do papers. From the beginning of the, we always do papers because we think that is more, also because we value the mutual respect. And sometimes we know there's a lot of problems in the Taiwanese, like traditional gallery before they do handshake. And sometimes happen because when you didn't put everything on papers, there's always like wrong interpretations on a lot of agreements. So we do papers, and we usually, the terms are clear, 50-50. And the artist will secure their part, and we will do what we promised them to do. And if the show is happening in Taipei, there's always invitations for the artists to coming to Taipei to join the opening. That's why we found it difficult during the pandemics. There's impossible to have the artists in Taiwan, and the connection with the audience is weakened by that.
Okay, we have a question from Tricky Lopa of Art Fair Philippines. Hi, Queena and Jazz.
Hi.
Nice to tune into you both. Congratulations, Jazz, on the Freeze project with Unizar. My question to both of you is, do you think there's a chance for more Southeast Asian artists to follow his footsteps, Unizar's? What will it take for the artists to do that? Do you think collectors from outside Southeast Asia or Asia will take notice of them? So how to be like Unizar to be able to have a project as big as the one in Freeze?
Queenie, you want to go first, or?
Okay.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that, for us, let me answer the question again in the way in what I'd like to say. That I think the platform, the artists that we have in Southeast Asia, in North Asia, in Queena's gallery and my gallery, they are as good as anything that you'd find in the world. We've done shows, people like Santi Bose, Samsa Siahan, they are invaluable. And I must say that the gallery platform is catching up with the quality of these artists. We are building up our infrastructure, and I would be the first one to say that the galleries in Southeast Asia, in Asia, need to catch up. We face very stiff competition with Western galleries, with artists that are just as good as ours, but they have a strong platform, institutional backing, collector backing, etc., etc. So, as a gallery, I look at what I can do within my capability to actually put forward this platform for my artists on an international level as good as any international gallery can. That's why sometimes when you go to Basel, Hong Kong, we put out a much larger space than we actually can. It's the imaging. We are as good as them.
Right.
Our artists are as talented as theirs. And that is my primary focus. So, of course, when you get a freeze sculpture show for Unisa, it's very good. It's what we're doing. We're putting them on an international platform, and that's what we need to do more often. Um, we need art historians, the language of art historians. We are currently engaged in doing a book on on modern Indonesian art. It's been 7-8 years in the pipeline, but we need to build up these infrastructures. Unisa's got a book coming up. We want to do a book on the Jendela show, on the Jendela group of artists, because whatever comes out from a dealer's mouth at an art fair, the way he speaks to collectors, the context in which he presents his artists, is actually a lot more important than we realize. And that's something which we need to build up from scratch. Unfortunately, if you think about, for example, Indonesia and the last book on Indonesian art was actually in 1965. There's a lot of catching up to do, which for me is exciting. There's so much more.
You have material.
Yes. Sorry,
Yes.
I've spoken too long. Please, Pina, you carry on.
It's okay.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree, Justin. We have to catch up. Like, why the Indonesian buyers and collectors, they actually quite support it and they have a lot of capitals, but they don't really have the strong infrastructures of their local gallery. That's why the auction house actually invaded in first. So as Taiwan and in the whole Southeast Asia, the platforms have to be built. And a lot of people has to working in these platforms to work with the publication. That's why we always doing this kind of publication, the books and the researches, instead of only doing the tradings or the art tradings as a dealer. Actually, we do more than that. When we go to Art Basel, Hong Kong, we have to spend a lot of money, but we have to do that. Sometimes we feel happy as long as we can keep the balance. We don't even want to make money. It's impossible. Like the artwork, the price of the artwork it's not going to compare to the Western gallery. We still do that. So I totally agree with Justin that you want to achieve that goal means that you have to invest that much as the preparation. And that's all the art galleries in Southeast Asia should do now.
So thank you very much, Quina and Jasdeep, for your time and your expertise. Thank you for that. Mabalik na kita kay Manny para sa next part ng program. Salamat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Quina, do you recognize this? This was exhibited in your gallery. It's a photograph by Jess Aiko.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So it's
Wow,
from my
it's
collection.
you, right? Yes, I remember.
Well, thank
very
you.
nice.
Thank you very much for
Thank
for today's session. Thank you for moderating, Dawn. I think the role of the galleries are very the careers of the artists, especially those who are starting. For us, like in Viva XCon, one of our inspirations of continuing this event was actually for the younger artists who are actually starting, and the pandemic actually put them on hold. So I think this discussion and the future discussions that we had will be an inspiration also to the artists, no, that they may continue their work, and that they may continue to focus on their careers, no. There is a future. We all know that. We still don't know when. But um, again, I thank you for joining us in Viva XCon. I really hope in the future that you can come over, Quina and Jasdeep. And I thank you also for the participants from the different islands of the Visayas. And thank you, Don, for such a long time. I haven't seen you.
Thank
only
you.
only virtual, no?
Virtual.
So thank you very much. I wish you all the best. Please keep us posted in your events, no, so that we can also help disseminate information and communicate to our brothers and sisters in the Visayan region. So thank you very much, and
Thank you, Manny.
I hope to see you in the future. Stay safe and stay healthy. Have a nice weekend.
Hey! Ang mga uwak gahulat sang akon kamatayon, dion na nga bag-uhon ang banas sang panglakaton. Numan ang madangtan sa pinili kong dalan, kabay nga hindi pa ulihi ang tanan. Di nang mga sinya sa cross nga alagyan, ang talagog talang-talang, nagtalang-talang, gatalang-talang, dapa-dapanaga padayon sa panglakaton. Buy ining mga bugat nga dalalon sa imo paminsaron kag balatyagon. Buy ining mga bugat nga dalalon, nga dalalon, nga dalalon. Dali na kay maimo ta sang bag-o nga kalibutan. Ako namigo gugma ang hari sa tuta, ray ng kalibayan. Ako nga abiyan magiliuso sa kausa sang kahilwayan. Peace be with you, man. Right! Come on. All right. Yeah, ba 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 ba. Yeah. All right. Feeling the blue. Yeah. abyan ko sa ining tinion. Ipabutyag sa katawhan ang imong nga nabalan, ang kaalam ngaging bungkal sa kadutaan. Ipalaplag mo sa hangin ang unod sining sugilanon, para mga tubang hangkat sang henerasyon. Tanga mga katawhan nagtuhaw sa kadutaan. Ibalik ta ang balanse sang kalibutan, mahimo ta sang bag-o nga alagyan. Padulong sa promisa nga kadutaan. Ako lamigo, gugma ang hari sa duta, ray ng kalibayan. Ako niya abiyon, magiliusa sa kausa sang kahilwayan. Ang paghidait yara sa imo, kag yara man sa amo.